रब्बि इश्रह ली सदरी व यस्सिर ली अमरी फहलुल उक़्दतम मिन लिसानी यफ़क़हू क़ौली। क़ाल अल्लाहु तआला फ़िल क़ुरआनिल मजीद वल फ़ुरक़ानिल हमीद। इन्नल्लाह ला युग़य्यिरु मा बिक़ौमिन हत्ता युग़य्यिरु मा बिअन्फ़ुसिहिम। सदक़ल्लाहुल अलीयुल अज़ीम। Respected dignitaries, brothers, sisters and colleagues, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It gives me a great pleasure to be a part of this great intellectual discourse here on Islam, Islamic disciplines and its implications on contemporary age. In fact, intellectual exercise is the key to evolve new paths and reach destinations. We firmly believe that Islam is a dynamic religion, not only in terms of concept, but also in nature and approach. Quran and Sunnah, which are known as nusus, provide strong guidelines for ijtihad. In the light of Quran and Sunnah, ijtihad is the unique feature that makes Islam live and relevant to all ages. Ijtihad has been encouraged throughout Islamic teachings. Friends and colleagues, we are living in an age of changes. From Tahrir Square and Taghayyur Square to the Occupy Wall Street movement, the whole world is passing through a transition period. This age is known as the age of fall of ideologies. Restlessness is the common feature among all the dominant trends, views, and ideologies. Confused destination and confident means are the distinguishing feature of contemporary age. Islam has the great potential and competency to be an alternative as a socio-political system. Its worldview is sufficient enough to solve the modern crisis. But for the purpose, it is an immense need of time to make an in-depth study of Islam and its epistemology. Islamic movements desperately need to apply Islamic principles on changing scenario. They need to make Islam a live religion in accordance with time and space. They need to critically examine their strategies. First of all, it must be clear that dawah of Islam is not merely preaching. Islam must be felt rather than just listening. Lifestyle evangelism is the term that Islamic movements must try to focus. We must focus on dawah through social engagement. There are certain issues which the modern world is facing. Islamic movements needs to answer those questions. People to live with multiple identities. There must not be any problem in culture sharing with ideological uniqueness. That is why Islam has promoted with the term of urf. We agree that no one has the right to impose their beliefs on another, but at the same time, we also understand that our common life should be defined in such a way that it includes the contributions of all the religious and philosophical traditions within it. Secondly, Islamic movements need to learn the work style and language of Islamic representation, especially in plural societies. Quran and Sunnah had only given the destination and principles. They had not mentioned a particular roadmap to achieve the objectives. It only means that there are certain measures that can be adopted with changing times. Different experiments have been made in past and are being carried out in present. They need to be critically evaluated with respect to their own ground realities. It is important to keep in mind that Islam must be grown in different countries with respect to their own land. It is not necessary to put the tag of even Islam everywhere and every time. The Turkish model evolved by Najmuddin Erbakan is of utmost importance in this regard. Objectives of Shariat, that is Maqasid Shariat, are the most important discussion agenda across the whole Islamic movements. Justice, equity, freedom of thought, democracy, and human rights are the features that must be focused. But at the same time, it is important to clearly define these terminologies from Islamic perspective. It is unfortunate that West and US has merely exploited and misguided through these terms. In fact, it was a game of terminologies with hypocrisy and dualism. We also need to critically examine our own terminologies. Our forefathers, even some 50 or 60 years back, have established Islamic movements on formulated different terminologies. Now, even those terms again need to be critically examined. For example, today in the globalized era, the concept of nation state has lost its actual meaning, in which it was discussed in the context of sovereignty of Allah. In the same way, the interpretations of Quran, that is Tafasir Quran, also need to be again written in the context of modern issues. Islamic movements also need to work on the lines of inclusive approach. There are certain examples in prophetic life in which non-Muslims have been engaged in different important tasks. The very first point of Medina Pact was that we, including Jews, are an ummah. All the messengers of Allah claimed that they are the part of their own society. Quran gives a universal approach, linnas and lil alamin, that means for the whole humanity, is the word that is used very frequently in Quran with respect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Prophet Muhammad, Kaabatullah, Ummat Muslima and Quran itself in the form of Rabbul Alameen, Rahmatul lil Alameen, Ukhrijat linnas, Uziya linnas and Hudal linnas. The polarization of society on the basis of religious and ideological identities is a big matter of concern. Communal harmony and concept of coexistence is the feature that Islam has promoted from its very early age. The unfortunate thing is that whole civilization is based upon the concept of clash and conflict. No brotherhood or cooperative spirit is found in the dominant tendencies. Rather than clash of civilization, dialogue between civilization must be explored. The agenda of an Islamic movement should be designed on the basis of social, cultural, geographical, political and economical realities. That is why the framework of the struggle of different prophets, Lut, Hud, Musa, Shoaib and Isa alayhi salam are different from each other. Even the Makkah period is different from Medina period. The priorities of Islamic movement must vary according to space and time. We need to decide our priorities. We do not want to compromise or dilute the basics or fundamentals of Islam, but we need to correlate these fundamentals with changing scenario. One more thing is the categorization of Muslim Ummah in the categories of secular, modern, liberal and moderates, fundamentals and extremists, good Muslims and bad Muslims. The search for moderates is a confusion of categories. Islam in need draws no distinction between religion and politics. Thus, it is permissible to use the most general descriptive terms without distinguishing religious conceptions and practices from political programs. Cultures and reference points are not identical. The notion of moderation has to be studied from within each system of reference. It cannot be imposed from outside. Lastly, it must be remembered that the revivalism of Islam is mainly attributed to students and youth. Mental power, brainstorming, and intellectual exercises are the unique features of the student community. Even the intellectual contribution to the prophetic movement was mainly given by teenagers and youngsters of the time, like Hazrat Anas, Abu Huraira, Maaz ibn Jabal, and Abdullah ibn Masud, Rizwanullah ta'ala alayhim ajma'in. Today again, students need to come forward to initiate new discourses and be the trendsetters according to the life of divine guidance. They are supposed to explore their wisdom. After explosion of population and explosion of knowledge, now it is time and turn of explosion of wisdom. And only Muslim students can do it, because ultimately they have the ultimate source of wisdom, that is Quran. SIO, Students Islamic Organization of India, is struggling across the country to explore this wisdom. SIO wants students to come out of the shell of just reading and writing textbooks and make them busy in the process of creation and recreation of knowledge for a just new world. I would like to conclude with the poetic line of Dr. Sir Muhammad Iqbal, "Jahane taza ki afkare taza se hai namu." That is, new world can only be created by new ideas and new thoughts. Wa akhir dawana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.